Hey guys, this is Tyler here. It is October 2nd. I want to explain to you why military has become much less popular for MGTOW guys in recent years and why it just continues to decline due to MGTOWism. The military has had an interesting history, of course. Most countries have had some form of military conscription system where men are obliged to register and to serve in the military from like age 18 to 25 was very commonplace in most countries all over the world until recently. And Europe was a great example here. In the country I live in, Estonia, they actually still have some kind of conscription. Yeah, many of the guys don't have to go into combat zones, but they still have to serve in the military. Guys have different opinions on this matter here. Some are into it, others not. Some guys do it when they're 18, 19, and other guys do it when they're like 27, 28. It just depends on the person. Countries like Russia, Ukraine, US used to have conscription, and many others. They've had this system in place. In the US, keep in mind, though, it was typically only during wartime that conscription was imposed, or the draft, as it's often known as. And this was just a common part of society. Many men just felt it was their duty to serve. They were willing to do it. And in America, it was up until the Vietnam War where men were very much willing to go and serve the country and to give it their best. But Vietnam was the first major conflict where it was much less accepted, and many guys did not want to serve who had to serve in the war. And the post-war effects of Vietnam lasted for many decades. I would argue and say to this day it still has had much impact on both countries, on people, on many things of our society. When we look at conscription, whether it's in America or in Russia or Poland, what we see here is that it's this obligation to serve, and it's often easier for men to do this if they feel like the society is worth serving for, if they feel a sense of patriotism to that society and that country, and they respect that country. Now, with where our society has gone in the past 10 to 15 years, and where many countries have gone, many men don't feel this obligation. They don't feel this desire. In America, it's been longer. It's probably 25 to 30 plus years that this has been happening, and many men just will not serve. It's the same reason why they have to offer such big signing bonuses, continuation bonuses, and all sorts of benefits for military guys in America. Army, Marine Corps, Navy, Air Force. Both my paternal and maternal grandfathers served in the U.S. Armed Military. They were both in the Marine Corps. They both had long careers, especially my paternal grandfather. He made it to colonel in the Marine Corps. Very high position, that's just under general. The U.S. military has changed and transformed so much over the years. And likewise, the causes that have been fought for, of course, have also been changing. It's also a matter, too, of where the country as a whole is in the ideologies of the country. When the ideologies of the country were more parallel, for example, in America, to how most men were, it was much easier for them to identify with these causes. And of course, too, when mainstream media was all like a monopoly, people didn't have alternative media and they didn't have computers and all of this other technology to get other opinions on wars, on conflicts. For this reason, much easier to get men to go and serve. Of course, they felt like they were living in the best country in the world. They felt a lot of duty to do this. And this is the same in other countries, in Russia and Poland, Germany. In these countries that have had conscription, it was the same thing, that men just felt like, okay, I get a lot from the society. They probably had good women that were willing to marry them and have children with, and they were well respected as a whole by society. Men were just more respected, often historically speaking, on a personal level, not necessarily on a government level. Keep that in mind. As this has gradually eroded, the level of interest in serving and being in the military has just gone down so much in some countries over the past 20 years. America is a fine example of this situation. I don't see it getting any better. Like I said before, with alternative media, much less patriotism, more internationalism, more mercantilism / corporatism, all these aspects just are drivers for men not to want to be in the military, to be like, I'm not doing this. So forcing conscription on younger men now is probably harder than ever before. There was speculation that if former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, if she had been elected as president in the last elections, that she was very interested in pursuing war on certain countries, including Russia, that men may have been obliged to serve in the military, to be conscripted. I think if this had happened, this would have been a huge disaster. This never would have worked with where America was at that time. Not saying also that in America, like other countries, many men are not fit and suitable to serve now, physically and mentally. If we looked at the common man 50 years ago, 70 years ago, when my grandpa was in the service, or when he started in the service, the typical physical, mental, psychological condition of the average man, younger man at that time, was much better than it is now. The society was, of course, very different. And now many men are disqualified from serving just based on their weight or on medications that they take or certain kind of depression they have. All these issues now cause many men not to even be able to be in the military in the first place. And this issue has grown big time in recent years with how problems have gradually increased. These type of problems, opiate problem is another example. All these issues have just made it more and more difficult to even find physically eligible men to serve in the military. And this is one other reason why I don't see the conscription being a realistic thing in America and probably other countries also in the future. And this is MGTOWism, of course, is about going one's own way, about pursuing what interests you, about not living for other people. It's often about not engaging in matters that don't involve you, that you don't feel obliged to participate in. And when we think of the concept of the military and of war and conflicts, it goes against a lot of those principles. These are very clashing factors here if we think about this, and it makes sense why many MGTOW guys would not feel obliged or interested in serving in a military, especially as many of them are more libertarian and interventionalist minded. There's just so many facets here that don't intertwine very well, and it would make clear sense why many MGTOW guys don't want to do this route. And I also have known guys who did serve in the military before, Marine Corps, Navy, who actually became very MGTOW as they got older and actually expressed their regrets to me about serving in the military when they were younger and about how they wish they had not gone this route. I knew a guy who had been in the Marine Corps and he actually ended up moving to, I think it was Philippines. He was very adamant about wishing he hadn't served and just having done some other career prior to that and just his problems with the military at this point. Guys may not be aware of this. Many guys that opt to live abroad, that relocate, were actually former military men. They served in the U.S. Marine Corps, Navy, Army, Air Force, some were even in wars. Many of these guys actually choose to live in other countries. These are guys people would assume were very patriotic to American causes, but they just probably have a broader perspective on the country and just perhaps see how the country has, they've served the country, but the country hasn't done anything to thank them. And in fact, just made life more stressful for them. And they just choose to go to countries that don't interfere in other people's affairs. So this is my take on it. I look forward to your feedback. Thank you.